Nasri looks Rashad in!
Gabriel Martinelli jusqu'au bout. Oh, il a fait l'exploit de Gabriel Martinelli. Le coast to coast façon NBA pour relancer les Gunners.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Kenyan Gunners podcast with me, Omar Bashir, and Ahmed Banafa. Ahmed, good evening to you.
Good evening, Omar. It's been a while since our last episode.
Yes.
How are we feeling today?
How long? I am not so sure. Our last episode, we were just checking before we started, was against Sheffield. So I guess, I don't know how many months. It's been long. It's been long, and
It really has. Let me just check the date on this. That was 14th April. That's 2 months
April.
ago.
Wow, April. What's happened since?
A lot.
A lot has happened. Certainly a lot happened against, with Arsenal, which we'll get our teeth into. Season's over. Arsenal finished 8th. I don't know with how many points. Ideally, I should have had all the statistics with me, but of course, I am as well prepared as ever. But I know we finished 8th, so that's the second year we finished 8th. So yay to consistency.
But with 2 points better than last season, it has to be said. Yes. Improvement there.
I'll take that with a very big pinch of salt. In fact, I'll take that with a fistful of salt.
Yeah.
But you know what? It is what it is. Let's just get into it. Seasons ended. The preseasons ended, or rather, just before the season begins. I don't know if you can go back in time and just tell me what were your feelings about this season. What did you think that we were able to achieve?
Honestly, I think this season could be divided into 2 or even into 4 bits, if you want to look at it that way. And once we divide it, we can now separate our progress, if you want to call it that. We started on I think it was a bit shaky, but we had some positive results. We were doing well with fine margins, and we were getting some results against Manu. We lost just barely lost against Leicester. I think we had there was that Verdi goal. We had a shaky start against West Ham and a shaky win against Sheffield as well. So I think to start with, we were okay. We were not terrible yet. We were just okay. We had a shaky start. We had, I think, 4 wins and 3 losses in the first 7 games. So that was what that was. And then we headed into, I think, the October, November and December actually of the season, and then we were just shit. I don't think there's any other word for it. We were terrible.
Can I give a different perspective to that? In that, I feel that with the way we began the season, bar the Fulham game, I think we were playing more or less the same way. It's just that the margins were favoring us. We with our big chances, we took the goals that won us the games. And in the games the period that we were not very good, speaking diplomatically, the margins were not going in our favor. So, going by what we're talking about, splitting the season into 4 quarters. So you can have, I think, the first half of the season was all bad, in my opinion. But we had 1 quarter of it where the margins were in our favor, We won a few games, we drew a few games, we lost a few games. It was fairly okay in terms of results. And then we had the second part of the second quarter, where no margins were going in our way. We were getting all the butt of the refereeing decisions, and we didn't win. I think for 2 months, I don't know, for 7 games, we went on a winless run, and I think in terms of our performances, our underlying metrics, I think from August all the way to December, at Chelsea game, I think we weren't really playing well. I mean, you can play as poorly as you want, but if you win the games, I mean, it's people are like, we won the game. But when you don't win the game, I think it's more highlighted and more looked into, and hence the scrutiny of that second part of the season. But I feel that in the beginning of the season as well, we weren't playing exceptionally good football. It was very stale, very lethargic, very slow, and devoid of creativity. And that seeped through until December. I think that's what my reading from it was.
Yeah, I think that's fair because when you look at it, you talk about the underlying metrics during that second quarter, and we like the fine, like it's as you said, just to borrow some of your points, that yes, the margins went in our favor at the start, and then there was a period where we kept playing poorly, and the margins were not at all in our favor. And in that period, I think in those in that 2 month period where we went on the winless streak, we did not take the lead even once. We only scored 3 goals. Can you imagine? And we picked up 3 red cards in that period. I think there was the Shaka one, there was the Pepe one, and there was it the Luis one? The one, was it Luis? I'm not so sure, but there was Pepe and Shaka, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I think it was Gabriel.
Yeah, Gabriel against
Southampton.
Southampton, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so we were abject, and the performances and everything was, I think the results reflected how we were playing, to be fair. Yeah, I think that was it. There's nothing more to say about that. We were just bad, and the results reflected that, and there was no creativity. What I would say is, despite all that, we were also not conceding that much. I think our defense was, despite losing the games, we were losing 1-0 losses, 2-0 losses. That's not something to to brag about for sure.
Look, we'll take what we can get.
Yeah, I think our defense wasn't all that bad. It's just, I think our main issue was going forward, and we had no creativity, and it reflected. And we were, I think, the worst team in the league by Sheffield, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I mean,
were we what, 17? Were we 15th, 16th, somewhere around there?
We were talking about relegation, so I don't think we were in a good state of mind. I think I want to get a little bit technical. I mean, let's talk about, because I think we started the season with the 3-4-3 formation, the season that won us the FA Cup, of course. I think the big change from what we had the previous season to what we had to the last season was, I felt one of the big changes to that was Pepe for Willian, who was one of the summer signings. How much do you think? I think, look, it's very difficult and it's very unfair to pin all of this on Willian. But why do you think Willian is the downfall of Arsenal Football Club?
Wow, that's a question and a half.
That was
I
meant to
wouldn't
be
say
sarcasm.
it's well, just to look at it, I think Arteta really I can appreciate the idea behind it, but I don't think it worked. And
Can you though? Can you? I think I remember. I don't know if it was Cedric or William. I remember you. I don't know. I can't remember if it was either Cedric or William, or maybe it was both. But I think I remember you were very disheartened by the move. I don't know if it. I can't quite recall. But basically, what I'm trying to say is most people. I don't think most people are excited about the deal. I think people are like
no,
trying to convince
I'm not talking
themselves.
about. I'm not talking about the deal. That
Mm,
that was done, and I'm talking about now. Once he started playing, and
mm,
Arteta insisted on playing him over Pepe. Now that's what I want to get into, and
okay.
I think that really affected us. When Arteta insisted on playing Willian, the idea behind it was that instead of cutting in as Pepe does, he wanted someone on the right who could hold the width. And Willian has never, I don't think, been a player who could, I don't know, he has some shortcomings as a player. And I think uh, the system in and of itself also did not benefit him at all. And I think there was some mismanagement there from Arteta. And the thing is, he kept on persisting with it for a really long time before he said that, okay, this isn't working. I think it would have been good to see him make his mind up earlier. And I think uh, yeah, I think Arteta really cost us that start of the season. I think it's all down to him and his management of the squad at that part of the season.
I mean, I totally agree with you. I think I certainly fall into the category of the player or the people who convinced themselves that Willian was a good deal. That look, he'll come in, he'll play as a number 10, he'll teach the likes of Saka and Smith Rowe and Pepe, how to be a winger in the league. He's been there, he's done that, he's won, the Premier Leagues, he's won, FA Cups, Europa Leagues for Chelsea. And we felt that, okay, I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I mean, we weren't happy about the 3-year deal. I think we were just saying, okay, well, this will be his first season. If he can get us, a couple of goal involvements, help around in terms of the young players, I think it'll be, we could live with it. And it certainly did not go in that direction. He was very poor. I think he was asked to do things that he has never done. Willian is a player who excuse me, goes to the byline, gets the ball in. That's the sort of player, the sort of winger that he is. All of a sudden, he was told to come infield and be a sort of a creative force, which he's never been in terms of the zone of creation, in terms of that inside channel. He's never done that in his career. And all of a sudden, he's been asked to do that in a struggling team, no less. And then it just went from worse situation, and we we got to where we were. And as you said, Mikel Arteta compounding this with insisting on playing with him, even though I think it was obvious to everyone and their mom that this guy was just not in form. And you could say that decision, apart from the actual decision of signing him, I've seen people saying that he's one of the worst signings in Arsenal history, and there is an argument for that. But that decision about Willian, may have inadvertently, cost Arsenal, whatever it is that we wanted to achieve this year.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack about that whole situation there, and I think it did not help that Arteta kept persisting with it, and we became flat-footed as a result, not creating anything. I think the energy that or lack of it that Willian brought into the team slowed us down. I think everyone else became affected. Even if there was some movement into the box, there was no one willing to get the ball into the box. I remember seeing sometimes Aubameyang would make runs even during his drought, whatever it was. There was nothing going forward. Basically, there was no ball, and I think the task that Willian was tasked with to be the creative force really failed. And yeah, I think it was just unfortunate to see our Arsenal side struggling as it was, and I think going back to that again, it just falls on the management, because despite everyone, as you said, seeing what we saw from Arsenal Football Club, there was no move from the coaching side to change things up. We persisted, and that really hurt us in the long run. And we can see now, once the system changed towards the end of December, around the Christmas period, I think it was Boxing Day or whatever, at the game against Chelsea, where we finally decided to change the system, introduce number 10 in Emil Smith-Rowe. What a player. And we could now see all of a sudden a different Arsenal Football Club, and things suddenly, and I don't know, I wouldn't say magically, but it felt magical how stark the contrast was from the previous games and the one against Chelsea, just from the change of system, dropping Willian, introducing number 10 in Emil Smith-Rowe, and suddenly we were playing proper football once again.
Yeah, I mean, that we started with the front four of Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Saka, and I think it was Lacazette. And all of a sudden, there was movement, there was, running off the ball, and it was just so dynamic in terms of our attacking play, and our pressing as well sort of improved. And I think that game was sort of like a turning point to how, or certainly how Arteta saw the team in terms of how he wanted to play from then on, because from then I think we've stuck basically with the 4-2-3-1 sort of formation. It has altered slightly to 4-3-3 on occasions, but more or less a 4-2-3-1. And I think that game, and as you said, the stark difference in that game from what we had been doing in the previous games, I think necessitated that change. And and then we toppled up, of course, in January with the signing of Martin Odegaard. Before I get to that, I think everybody unfortunately remembers that dark period in October, November. And it was interesting to hear Mikel Arteta's comments on that. I think it was a couple of weeks ago in a press conference. He talked about, I think, the influence in the dressing room of certain players who was sort of leaking information and bringing a sort of a draughty atmosphere around the club. I mean, the football wasn't helpful, but I think sort of to add salt to the wound in certain situations. And he felt I think he said that was one of the biggest achievements or the biggest successes of the season is sort of, weeding out that sort of influence in the club. I don't know. So, I mean, in January, a host of other players had left: Mustafi, Kolasinac, Mesut Ozil, and the likes. Do you feel that as well, those sort of players who weren't playing, and of course have huge following or a substantial amount of following at the very least on social media, probably have contacts in the media circles, would they have sort of added salt or leaked some stories that would have, made the job of the manager and the players more difficult than it already was?
Well, that's what Arteta says, and I don't know. I don't want to refute what he says because he's the man who's in charge. But as well, I feel like in addition to that, the kind of atmosphere it creates when I think there is disconnect or some sort of animosity between the manager and some of the more influential players, and not on the football pitch, but just in general, like influential in the dressing room, maybe. When there's animosity between those two groups, I do believe that it would impact any dressing room. It would impact the morale of any uh, players who are involved. And um, in the end, you want them to be professional, but they are also human. And of course, some of these things affect them. And maybe, yeah, maybe it did create a negative atmosphere in the dressing room, and there was poor morale. And I think, um, I don't know, I don't want to say that because when we started playing well again, it was a change in system without those players, and we started playing well before they were moved on. You see, like the game against Chelsea, which was the pivotal game in how we started playing again. Um, those players were still there. It's not like they weren't. You see, and the game in January before the players were moved on again, we were still playing well again. So I don't want to say that it should have been, or I don't know what the right word is. I don't want it to have been that big a deal. I think the manager should also have done better somehow, because we could clearly see that aside from all that negative press or whatever was going on with in the dressing room, these players were professionals. And once the system changed, we started winning games. We started playing better football even before the players were moved on. The likes of Mustafi, Ozil, Kolasinac, uh, whoever else was moved on. I think the main thing was the management and the coaching and the system that was in place. And once that changed, maybe also once they moved on, the morale also maybe might have changed, and it became better. But I don't want it. I don't want to say that it was that influential in our play more so than the system or the management of Arteta. I think
Fair
it
point.
deflects the focus from the main thing.
Fair enough. Maybe that's what he was going for. I don't know. Well, January rolls in. We started to play a bit better. We sign, who did we sign in January? We signed Martin Odegaard,
On loan
Matt
and who
Ryan.
else? Yes.
I think that's it. I don't know. And I think the biggest success of the January transfer window was getting out the players that was sort of deadwood, that weren't part of the 25-man Premier League squad, weren't part of the Europa League squad. And I think that one is seen as a big coup from Edu. I think that's the one thing that people, would give him credit for. And I think that,
Yeah,
yeah, go on.
sorry. I do believe that that window as well was really good for Edu in terms of yes, we didn't have a lot of incoming, but as well the outgoing were really necessary. I do believe that because we had an overblown squad. I think Socrates also left. Man, this was a long season.
Papadopoulos.
Hey, okay, I'd totally forgotten about him. Yeah, so yeah, moving on, those players I think was more important than who we got in. to say that, not say that who we got in wasn't important. That was also good business, getting Martin Odegaard. I think the signing of Martin Odegaard in particular was, I want to say it was due to the change in system that we had, or um, also a sneak preview into any future systems that Arteta might want to play, because the emergence of Smith Rowe in that role showed that we needed that kind of, at least it showed Arteta. I think most fans already knew. But it showed the kind of player we needed, and getting Martin Odegaard, who is in the mold of the likes of classical number 10, but also with a bit of a number 8 in him. That was also a really good signing. I do believe in that it would have. We saw that it did help Smith Rowe is the his role on the team, because he's still a very young player, and yeah, and also Matt Ryan. I think we needed a backup goalkeeper, because we were not convinced by Runarsson.
Understatement of the year.
Yeah, and there we go. I think the January transfer window, all in all, was pretty successful.
Yeah. Well, let's roll into the third quarter of the season, and I think it was. It was sort of like there were signs that something bad was going to happen. I don't know, like we would do well in certain situations, and then it just collapses. I'll give you games like the Wolves game,
And
the Aston Villa game. Who else is there? I don't know. The Burnley game. And these any games.
Burnley game was a draw.
Yeah, but like we should have won the game. We should have won.
Yeah, we also should have won against Man U, by the way.
Man United, you can take those ones. I mean, a draw against Manchester United, who finished second in the league, that's not really. I mean, we took 4 points off them this season, so that's not. I can't really, cry about that. But it's. I mean, Wolves taking 4 points off us. I think that's the issue. Aston Villa taking 6 points off us. That's an issue. Everton taking 6 points of us, that's an issue. Wolves taking 6 points of us, that's an issue. I think those games sort of reminded us that we still had a lot of work to do, despite the change in information in Upturn in terms of our performances and our chance creation. Chance creation, I think, was better, but I wouldn't say it was vastly improved. And I think that sort of translated into what kind of European season that we had in the Europa League, where we had sort of these games where the first leg we screw it up, then the second leg, here comes the hero in the red cape, ready to save everything. I don't know. I mean, what was your take on that part of the season where after January, shall we say?
Yeah, from January, actually, let me just start by focusing on the Premier League. From January up to some point in March, the only losses we had are the ones you mentioned against Wolves, Aston Villa, and Man City, and that's 3 losses in 2.5 months, so almost 3 months. So that's not actually bad, but Premier League. Yes, there were some games where we should have won. I think the Wolves one was. I think the result says we lost, but for me that was mostly refereeing. I think there was really poor refereeing from that game. The Aston Villa one, yes, I think that one we needed to do better. Although also the refereeing in that, which we might speak about the refereeing a bit later. But yeah, so all in all, I do believe it wasn't that bad. There was a definite improvement from the first half of the season. When it came to now, later on, I mean, okay, maybe not later on, but in the in the Europa League or in the cup competitions where we were a bit shaky. I think that was now the how do I say, the after effects of the first half of the season. You know, the team would still revert somehow to a slow build up, to a slow or mistake filled kind of football where it was really hard to watch sometimes. And until we had a rescue job from someone or the other. And I think this was now the emergence of Pepe as well, where it started. I think we could now see that he's really improved, and we were clamoring for him to be started more often. I think even when we were winning games, Arteta was still slow to start him and play him the full game. That was a really strange one for me. But anyway, we kept having that kind of game, and I think it was really summed up in the West Ham game towards, I think now in the last quarter of the season. I think that West Ham game for me was the summation of the season, where we started like it was a horrible start. We conceded 3 goals in the first half, really poor goals to concede, and then we came back and we scored 3 goals from basically dominated after we had conceded those 3 goals, and we ended up coming back to a 3-3 draw. And that for me was now like a perfect summary of the season. And yeah, that's where basically that's it.
Well, great ending.
I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with you on that. In that, I think I want to focus on. I mean, you focused on the Premier League. I want to look at Europe in particular. I feel that in these games, especially in the first legs, I think Arteta more often than not overcomplicated his approach and really thought of ways that he would exploit something, or something that was really obvious that he could have done to exploit the weakness of the opposition. He didn't do. I point out towards a particular game. I think it was against Slavia Prague. I think that's the quarterfinal, if I'm not wrong. And it was known, I think everybody knew Slavia Prague would press high, and they have a very high line. Therefore, you could play players who have pace, who can run in behind, and you will exploit the space. What does he go and do? He plays Lacazette and Willian, and we drew the game. So, and then you forward to the following game, and he plays the fast players. He plays Saka, he plays Pepe, and he plays Smith Rowe. And we're, I don't know, 4-0 or 3-0 up in like what, 20, 30 minutes? Because of, playing the ball in behind, because we had runners. And I think that's like opening to another topic about Mikel Arteta, in that he sort of overcomplicates sometimes his approach, especially, in important games or games that, have significance to him or to the club, i.e. in the Europa League, or maybe, a big game in the Premier League. I say, for example, against City or against Liverpool, he will overcomplicate his approach. And yeah, it just ends up as, a whole bowl of nothing. And I feel that, culminated in the semi-final performance. And I think though, however, that was a combination of overcomplication on his part, and Emery and Villarreal sort of setting the tone of how they wanted the game to be played. And I don't know. I guess we can just get into that semi-final. I think that's probably the low point of. I think that's that is normally, I think, why many Arsenal fans are feeling down is because of those two games. How do you think, where do you think Mikel Arteta got wrong? Well, he certainly went wrong, but what are the areas that you would like to focus on in terms of that performance in that game, those games rather?
Hmm. Well, I think that was the point when Tierney was injured, and he decided to play Shaka at left back. Remember that? And who played in midfield? Was it Elneny instead of Shaka?
I remember
Anyway,
we had there was that time when we started using Ceballos in a 4-3-3, and Ceballos was on that left-hand
yeah.
side. I don't know if you remember that.
All right.
So I think it was around that
Yeah.
period, if I'm not wrong.
Anyway,
Then we had left Shaka at
yeah.
left back.
That yeah. I think he was experimenting in the absolute wrong game to experiment on. I think we had I think Shaka, despite his um, I don't know his abilities or inabilities on the ball, his he can do a job at left back, but against, I mean, in such an important game as the ones we played against Villarreal, I think that was the wrong move from the manager. I think we had uh, 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 substitute left back. We could have used Saka, although he might have sensed a bigger need to play him as a forward. But I do believe he should have just went with a proper. Well, his Saka is not a proper anything really. He's an everything, but he could have done a better job from left back with how we see that Arteta wants to play. I think he can because he has a better delivery. He's a better runner on the ball. With Shaka, he just sits in deep, and then now to go forward as well. I think. The midfield setup, it wasn't good for me, and we basically just fell into a trap that Emery had set for us. So tactically we failed, or Arteta really rather failed, and it became hard to come back from that. I think the first leg, and they had one away, was it? And we had to go to their stadium to try and get something. They basically just shut up shop, and they already knew, or Emery already knew, that we have some struggles going forward. So that's all he had to do. He had to shut up shop, and that's what he did. And he became the victor in the end, because tactically, I think Arteta got it wrong in the first leg, and his approach got further exposed in the second leg. And I think, yeah, that was definitely a low point.
Yeah, and that more or less that exit meant that we wouldn't have any European football following this season. I mean, there was a chance later on that we could have gone into the Europa League and then into the Conference League, but I think us finishing outside of Europe is probably a fair representation of how our league season went. Certainly, I think for the future, we can talk about that in part 2. But I think for the future, it's good that we finished outside of Europe. That we can focus on less games, on a smaller, tight squad, and Arteta can actually work on these players in training, in the training ground more. I think we know that Arteta's biggest quality is as a coach. So I think having more time in the training ground certainly will help situations. And I mean, the last couple of games in the Premier League, I think we played a 4-2-3-1.
Mm.
Pepe had a more influential take in terms of his appearances. He finished a lot of the games as well, started and finished most of the games. There was a persistence on Aubameyang as the center forward. I mean, what does that, without giving too much away for the part two, what does that tell you about where he sees the team evolving in terms of our formation and how we want to play?
Well, I think it remains that he has, I think, a basic idea or understanding of the game. He himself, Arteta. I think eventually he wants to go into a 4-3-3 formation, but a 4-2-3-1 is basically also a 4-3-3 formation if you use it the right way. So he wants us to be, I think, adaptable in that regard. With Pepe, I think, I don't know. I don't want to say that his handling of Pepe has been good because he really improved towards the end of the season, Pepe. I think we already saw since the start of January that Pepe had already become better. I think since his red card, actually, he had I think set his mind maybe down, like put his head down, and he had decided to do better or something. Whatever it was, I think there was a reinvigoration of spirit or resurgence of Pepe himself. So his use, I don't know. It's hard, you see, like from to credit either one. You can credit Arteta for his use of the player, or you can credit Pepe himself, or you can do both. I don't know, but something changed with his use, and he became better, and we could see it. He became very influential. He was scoring goals. He was creating chances. He was giving assists, and I think that's for the future. I think he's gonna play an even bigger role, and I'm really happy for him. I actually really like the player. I really enjoy seeing him play the way he has been. I think it shows us what he can do, and I think I'm excited to see him next season showcasing what he can do even more so. Yeah, so with that, I think the formation stays more or less the same because, as I said, the 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3 depends on how you use it in the game. It can change here and there. And I think in part two, we will talk about the kinds of players that we have and the kinds of players that we need.
Yeah, certainly. I think we should end part one here, unless there's something you want to talk about that we haven't talked about.
I don't know. Do you want to talk about maybe who impressed you in the season during the whole season before we go into like part two?
Let's see who impressed me.
You could divide it again into maybe the first half and the second half because I know like there's a difference.
You know what? I'm gonna say Shaka. I think Shaka has had his best season in Arsenal. I mean, he's had mistakes this season. There was the Burnley red card, and then there's the mistake again against Burnley. But really, apart from that, he's been really good for us. And whenever he's been out of that midfield, we've sort of missed him. Whether he's what we need for the future is certainly up for debate. But certainly, I think that he surprised me in terms of how consistent he could be, because I never thought that he could do that. And he certainly did that this season. So I'm going to go for Shaka.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I agree with that, actually. He's he has this dependability about him. Like it's a funny word to use with him because he has some mistakes here and there that really cost you a game. But whenever he can be like really consistent, and he's one of the most consistent players, and he offers a lot when he's played. And I think that's why managers really like him as a player, because he does what he's told most of the time. He's quite reliable. He's a leader on the pitch. I think he's one of the most vocal players out there. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think he had a good season by anyone's standards at Arsenal this in this 2020-2021 season.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Anyway, let's end it there for part 1. We will be back with part 2 right after this. Welcome back to part 2 of the King Goodness podcast. You can follow us on our various social media sites on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Of course, give us a follow on Spotify. Yes, Ahmed. Part 2. What should we do? What are we doing? Why are we recording? Why am I here?
What is life?
No, don't go there. Don't go there. Look, we finished talking about the season. Let's talk about next season, and let's talk about how we're going to win the league. So, I will give you how many positions do you think we need to prioritize? I think we can. There are so many positions that we need to fill, but which positions would you prioritize this season or this summer transfer window?
I think just two positions, or is it? I don't know.
Just two?
Two positions, like as priority to start, like the main things we need. Like, I feel like just those two are for the first 11 at least, just two positions, and that is the central midfield and attacking midfield. I think, for me at least, right now, as the squad is, we definitely need a central midfielder who is an upgrade on Xhaka, who can partner Partey well, and we also definitely need an attacking midfielder because Odegaard has left. He was not our player. He was. So just to stick with Smith Rowe, I think is not a good idea. So we definitely need an attacking creative midfielder rather, who can slot into that position. So for me, those are the priority positions. The business that we should conduct first is those two players, those two positions, right?
Well, I think in terms of central midfield, I think, well, it would seem through the rumor mill that Xhaka is going to leave Arsenal. There's been talk about Ruben Neves from, I think that's how it's pronounced, from Wolves. Then there's the obvious talk of Bissouma from Brighton. Two very different players in terms of profiles. Would you have them both? Would you have either? Would you have a different option? I mean, what sort of central midfielder would you want to see at Arsenal?
Well, I would want to see is this a dream scenario or what is it? Is it a realistic scenario?
Josh and Stan have given you the keys.
Well, I don't know what kind, I don't know the players that we have right now, but imagine if we had like a Fabregas type player right now, or a Cazorla, or a Thiago, or a Xabi Alonso type player in there.
So basically,
just one of those
a progressor
players. Yes,
who can spot.
Which Ruben Neves, I think, kind of plays like that.
Yes, he's a
But
progressive
he's not
player.
the elite level. I don't think I can classify him as an elite level footballer. But he does that job and he does it quite well for Wolves. So
I
I
mean,
can see the interest.
there was talk of Ruben Neves a couple of years ago going to the biggest clubs for eye-watering fees, and I think now we're getting. I mean, the rumor is about 35 million. I don't think that's bad. I mean, there are a lot of people who are not too enthused about the deal. I don't know. I think it's a good deal. I think he's a good player. I think he's an improvement to Shaka. He can certainly pass the ball. He certainly has an eye for goal. I think he can improve. He's a young player as well. He's 24, so sort of in the right category. He's Premier League proven. He's played in the league. He's done well in the league. I think it's not a bad signing to have. I think I'd rather much have Ruben Neves than Sunderberg.
Yes, there I agree with you. Yeah, Ruben Neves like I haven't said he's not a good player. He's a very good player, and I really whenever I see Wolves play, like I always enjoy seeing him play because he can pick out a pass, and I love seeing him spraying passes here and there. He does have an eye for like he has some eye-catching goals. He can score free kicks. So and I think he does well defensively. He's not that badly off as well.
Yeah.
So he can slot in there. And I think him and Partey holding that midfield would be a good combination, in my opinion. But if I were to choose, I'd have both. I'd have Neves and Bissouma because we still need another. Like, I don't think just one or the other would be enough.
Yeah.
Whatever we get, I don't think it would be enough. We need at least two good signings in that position.
I think as well because we'd have lost Ceballos and Xhaka, so I think you need to sort of replace that type of quality that can slip in and out of the game, slip in and out of the team rather, and sort of the levels.
We can't be depending on Mohamed. I really like Mohamed, but we can't really depend on him.
We here at the Kenny Goodness podcast really like him. I mean, look, there's no Europa League, so he's going to score 0 goals again. So
that's unfortunate.
So I mean, Mohamed El Neni has his deficiencies, and I think he's a good player to have in the squad, but certainly not a player that should be starting week in, week out for Arsenal, I think. So I think we need to get somebody who's much better. It doesn't mean that the players that we have are bad or I don't like the players that we have, but I think that these players have already shown what they can offer for us, and that's 8th. And we need to be higher than that. And I think we need to, stop convincing. I think the biggest lesson, personally for me, I think the biggest lesson that this season has taught me that we need to, especially with this crop of players, that we need to just stop convincing ourselves that they're good, and we know they aren't good. I mean, we know what Lacazette is as a quantity. We've seen him for 3 or 4 years. We know what he can do, and it's not going to change all of a sudden. So I think, would I get an improvement now going back? Would I love an improvement over Xhaka? Absolutely. I mean, in the end of part 1, I just said how, he surprised me and how good he's played this season, but that doesn't mean I don't want an improvement of him, because we are not negligent of the fact that we've been quite bad and we need to get better, and we need to get better quickly. So yeah, that's it for me. I think getting 2 players in that position would be a challenge. Let's move into that's your other priority, which is central attacking midfield. I mean, there's the Buendia thing that happened where we got a bid in, and there were talks, and now Aston Villa have signed him. there's talk of Odegaard, and we don't know what's happening with Real Madrid. There's some murmurings of Houssam Aouar, but they're not really concrete. I mean, the transfer season officially hasn't started yet, but where do you see this ship sailing in terms of central attacking midfield?
Well, with regards to the Buendia deal, I can see why we were looking at him, but I think both you and I agreed that he's not a player we would have wanted in our team. That's not to say that he's a bad player. He's actually quite a good player, but I don't think that he's. I don't know. I just don't. He didn't pass the eye test for me, whatever that means. Like I whenever I watched him or whatever it was, he just wasn't for me. So I'm actually happy we didn't get him. I think it would have limited us, and I think it would be kind of messy because I don't trust Arteta to make the right choices anymore. Actually, I think he would have persisted with Buendia even if it didn't work for so long, and I don't think it would have worked because I don't see him fitting in our Arsenal team.
Well, I think this is where you and I would disagree. Where I actually think he would have done well in a national team, but what I feel about it is that there are better players that we can get. You see what I mean? That he would certainly improve our forward line. Certainly, he adds goals, he adds assists, chances, dribbles, and all this sort of stuff that are helpful in terms of an attacking player. But I feel that we can get a better player, especially for the price that we were quoted for. I think that's the difference for me. I think, as well as Arsenal, I think it was like, I don't think they wanted to make the decision on Buendia now. I think Aston Villa just forced their hand. I think Arsenal would have preferably liked to pursue other targets like Odegaard and many others. Then maybe if those didn't pan out, then okay, fine, let's go for Buendia, which is fine. But I think Aston Villa forced our hand, and we are where we are. I think Aston Villa in the end got the player because they offered a better package to Norwich. I think the wages were matched in terms of Aston Villa and us, so it was just about what Norwich got. And I think fair play to him. I'm sure he'll do well at Aston Villa, but I feel that we have more irons in the fire, and I'm really interested to see what sort of irons we have.
A player I like for that position is Pereira. Matheus Pereira,
from West Brom. Him and Buendia are sort of similar, actually, if you think about it, in terms of their playing style. So I think, but Buendia, I think they're more similar. I don't know why that isn't. I think maybe because of his numbers aren't that good, but I think he's a good player as well. I think they're very, very similar in terms of their playing style and their underlying metrics. I don't know. Who's to say that we won't go for Houssam Aouar?
I've just checked online, and West Brom are quoting at least 15M for him, for Pereira.
Really? This is news.
I would take him, honestly. Yeah, I'm just checking it right now.
But okay, would you
if you're asking me who I would rather have between Pereira and Aouar, I would take Aouar. But I mean, for the price that I'm seeing being quoted, I would take both.
I think I would agree. Sorry, I'm just distracted over Twitter and I don't know what's happening. Let's just get out of here and continue with the podcast. I think a very important position, Ahmed, is goalkeeping, because I think there's a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity about the position since last summer, to be fair, with the departure of Emi Martinez and the signing of Runason, who certainly proved to be not up to the standard. We got in Matty Ryan, who I felt was an able deputy. I think he did very well. I was so excited. Whenever he played, he was Premier League proven. He was assured on the ball, very vocal. I mean, what you basically want in a good goalkeeper. But then again, now the talks about Leno leaving or Mike wanting to leave, and then he tracked back and said he was happy and would just see what happened with the future. Then there's the Onana links. I mean, we're trying to sign a player who is banned because of doing drugs. I mean, that's very Arsenal-like. But
just go on.
Yeah, I've completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, Onana. The price that being quoted for him is what, £7 million, right?
Yeah.
This could prove to be a brilliant move that when we be talking about when we're in the league 3 years from now, I remember how we signed Onana from 7 million when he was banned and he came on and then now he, I don't know, scored a free kick or something. Or it could be absolutely disastrous. There's no in between these two. And you get the sense that if they sign Onana, does that sort of lean or give you a decision or a thought, a thinking of what they feel where Leno's future lies?
Well, to start with, I will say that Leno still has 2 years left on his contract, right? If I'm not wrong. Yeah. And Onana, I think what we're doing is we're monitoring the situation because if the ban is upheld, he still won't be playing until February of next year, but he will be allowed to join a club or to start training 1 month before. So whatever we do with that regard, what I think we will do is we will keep Leno for 1 more season. I think we will sign Onana, depending on the verdict. We would either sign him now or we will sign him in January, depending on the verdict. And then we will let Leno go at the end of the season. That's my opinion. Okay, I might be very wrong about this, but that's what I feel will happen. Or that's what I want to happen, at least. If Leno is to go, I think Onana will be a necessary signing. Because I think that thing that you told me about, I hadn't read the article really, so I'm just going on information. You told me that you thought that the doping situation was a bit off and that it was a bit unfair for him to have been banned for a whole year for something that was like, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was unfair for him, as you said. That's why he's even appealing for it and everything. Yeah. So he is actually a very good goalkeeper. I personally feel that he is an improvement on Leno, and but what I feel will happen is I think Leno will stay for 1 more season before we let him go. I do not think he will go this season. Leno, at least.
Well,
that's why I'm not so worried about
that.
That
would be the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Does that mean you sign somebody as loan? Would you bring Matt Ryan back? How does that affect your homegrown? Because homegrown is an issue.
Yeah, that's a big issue. We still need a backup goalkeeper anyway. So I think there are talks underway to bring back Matty Ryan again. I think now he'll be a signing, but he'll be a free signing. Nothing is actually free. I think there'll be some signing on bonus or whatever, but free signing, quote unquote. the homegrown issue, I'm not really sure how we'll solve that. I think that one I'll leave it to more able minds to to deal with. I haven't really thought about it so much.
Okay. I think that's those for me. I think also if what we need to try and do something in the fullback positions, but I think that for me is like the bottom of the list. If we sell, I think we can make do with Chambers, in my opinion, and we've got Cedric there, so it's a decision that can be made next summer. I mean, if we get into, I mean, hopefully, if we can get into the Champions League, a Champions League place next season with Chambers, and then with that money, get in somebody that you really want at that position. I think that's you can I think we can make do with Chambers. On the left side, I mean, we've seen Tierney has struggled with injury issues, but then he's played a lot of games. He'll now be playing basically just the Premier League games, so he could play majority of them. So I think the fullback positions where I feel are important, but aren't as important as, for me, the three positions: central attacking midfield, central midfield, and goalkeeper. I think for me, those are the priorities.
If we can do business in those three positions, or actually for me, the first two positions that we talked about, first, if we can do business for those two positions initially, and we finish with those earlier in the transfer window, I would actually now I would actually call it a success, because it will be good, because we've covered our priority positions first and foremost, and then we can get a backup left back for cheap. I think there was some talk of a player from, what was it, the Belgian league or something, for 5 million. So those deals we can do, and I don't have a problem with that. But the priority positions, once we get them and we are satisfied, or if we can be satisfied, because it might be tricky, whatever business they do. But once they cover those positions, then I will be a happy Arsenal fan for the window.
Okay. I just want to wind up here. I'm going to ask you a quick question. I want you to give a bold prediction for next season. A bold one. I don't want an easy one. I want a bold prediction from you.
Yeah. Or like where we'll finish. You didn't specify.
I don't know. It could be anything.
Okay. Okay, here goes. Omar, are you ready? No, I'm not hearing.
Yeah,
Am I disconnected? Okay. We will win the FA Cup. That's to start with. Okay. We will finish second, I think.
Second?
And, for me...
Well, that is bold.
Yes.
Wow.
I think we'll finish second and we'll win the FA Cup. I'm not sure about the other cup. What is it called these days? The League Cup.
The Carabao.
I'm not sure about the Carabao. Yeah.
You know what? I think we could win that one. I don't know. I think we will. I think we'll give it a priority. I don't know. I feel that we can give that one a priority. That second one. Second. Wow. Really?
You wanted bold, didn't you?
Well, that is true. Wow.
If I'm being conservative, I do think at least fourth. I will be happy with fourth. Because we don't have European football, so we'll have time. So like fourth should be the minimum.
Really? Not sixth? Would you take Europa League qualification?
For next season, no, I will not.
Okay.
I
Right.
would be disappointed. I will take it, of course. I will have to. I'll have no choice but to take it if it happens. But but I will not be happy. I'll be disappointed with sixth. I will be satisfied and somewhat happy with fourth. I'll be extremely elated if we finish anything above fourth.
I'll be extremely elated if you get in the chat. If we finish fourth, I don't care if we're in the whole season and we get in fourth or the final day. That's brilliant. I think that's great. Champions League football.
But
I don't know. I
a
think
lot of this depends on the business we do as well. So
yeah, that
there's
is
also
true.
that caveat.
That is true.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it
It's
shows how important
ask me
this.
this again. Ask me this again when we record the preseason podcast at the end
Okay,
of the transfer window.
will do.
When we do that, then ask me again.
I'll put that on my notes.
Yeah.
All right then. I want a rapid fire. I don't want you to think about it. So just go on this. Goal of the season.
Ooh. The West Brom game, there were so many good goals then. All of them. I don't know.
Even the own
Tierney
goal.
one was really good.
I'll go for the own goal one.
The Tierney one was really good. The Saka one was really good. The Saka one was a team goal, so I was happy with that. Who scored the other one? Was it?
Lacazette, was
Oh, I think so.
it? Yeah.
There was also this goal that Smith Rowe scored.
The own goal.
No, Smith Rowe scored.
No, he didn't. It was an own goal.
Not during the West Brom game.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go.
In another game, there was this like really, really nice team move. I think he started it, Smith Rowe, out of nothing. Do you remember? He played the ball into Saka. What game was it? And then Saka plays it into Lacazette, and Smith Rowe is still continuing with the run, and then Lacazette.
Bro, that's West Brom.
Really?
Yeah. Saka is the one who scored that goal. Not Smith Rowe.
Okay. Okay, then yeah, those goals, even the Tierney one was really good. His solo goal for me. Pepe also scored some really good goals.
Yeah.
I know this is supposed to be a rapid fire, but I can't decide.
Okay. Game of the season.
Well, Chelsea 3-1.
Okay. I would say United, Old Trafford.
Yeah. I feel okay. I have picked Chelsea 3-1 because it was the pivotal game for us, and we actually started playing better football from that game.
You know what?
Game against Man U was really satisfying.
Yes.
But
do you know what? Out of the Chelsea games, I like the Stamford Bridge one. We were absolutely shit, and we won the game. That was so funny. It's so funny. It really is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
okay.
I was also happy about that.
Best player.
Saka.
Really? Nothing for William?
Throughout the season.
No William?
If anything, I'd say I don't know. William was something else, like you can't really he was in a different class on his
You can't
own.
quantify.
You can't put him with the other players. It was next level. He scored a really good goal, by the way.
Yeah, I kept talking about his set piece ability. So there we go.
Yeah, and the week before he scored the goal, he also had a really close one. He hit the post.
Yeah. He's good in set pieces. Yeah. We can give him that. Anyway, I think we should end it there. Unless you've got anything.
No, not really. Just like to thank the listeners for being patient with us. I know we haven't been the most consistent podcasters in the world, but we try. We are also busy with our schedule, so we do try to come up and create time for this podcast, and we appreciate everyone who's been listening, and yeah, we're thankful.
Yeah, we are certainly thankful. We try our level best here to get out content to you guys whenever that we can, and hopefully we'll do much more or many more podcasts next season. I think winning will help if Arsenal won. Not saying that we don't do podcasts when we lose, but it'll make it
Yeah.
much more enjoyable that we do. So anyway, I thank you
Yeah.
guys for this season. We will try, of course, during this close season to update you guys as well on the podcast. We'll be talking about various things. We'll talk about the Euros, what's happening there, the Arsenal players, any signings that we make, the preseason coming up. So things a lot to get into before the season starts, and we will be here with you all the way. Thank you as well to Ahmed, all the listeners. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's it. That's it. Yeah.
That is it. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Kwaheri.